Hello and welcome to the AzEDS Submission and ADM Reports presented by School Finance Miss Saba Hussein and myself, Monica Paz. In this presentation, we would like to go over brief definitions, reviewing the data process, where to find your reports within AzEDS. We will briefly go over some integrity errors and talk quickly about some of the ADM 15 columns from within the ADM 15 report. The school finance team can be contacted either via the school finance main line, or if you know your account analyst on the operations support team, you can email your account analyst directly, or if you have a payments question, you would want to contact the finance operations team by either reaching Sheen Liu or the budget or payments team. When contacting your account analyst, we ask either if you're contacting us via email or voicemail or opening a ticket through the support team, we ask that you make sure to please include enough information so that we have an opportunity to research your issue. Obviously, we would like for you to include your name, how we can contact you, the school that you're calling from, a brief description of the issue that you are encountering, and if you specifically have students that you would like for us to research, please make sure to include the state student ID, as well as possibly screenshots of errors that you are receiving. Please also try to let us know where you are receiving those errors, if it's a specific AzEDS report, if it's somewhere within your vendor, within your SIS that you are receiving an error. Help us identify where you are receiving those reports so that we can adequately research the issue that you are having, so that when we reach out to you, hopefully we're able to provide you with the solution.
Hi, this is Saba. I wanted to walk you through some definitions. This year, it's October 2016, it's the beginning of the 2017 school year. There's a lot of new things going on for various reasons, and because there's so much happening at the same time, I think I hear us overlapping a lot of concepts, so I want to distill it a little bit so that we're all talking about the same thing when we use specific words. So what school finance does essentially is we'll track student data, staff data, and then vehicle data, and kind of estimates and group data, and we use that to make payments based for state aid to LEAs. And when I say LEAs, I mean school districts and charter districts. We'll be tracking membership days for individual students, and then for school districts, we also calculate teacher experience based on the staff data we calculate. And then charters will submit a single value essentially to estimate their payment for the first couple of months of the year. So there's a number of different systems and data elements that we use to create your payment. So there's a reason that we talk about a lot of things at the same time. It's because we're doing a lot of things at the same time. So it's okay if you're confused. We'll clear it up all together. Current year funding is a buzzword this year. It's because it's something that happened July 1st, 2016. It's a change in the way district payments are calculated. So in prior year, districts received a very clean payment. It was based on prior year ADM divided by 12, and that's what their payments would be, very consistent. Charter were paid on live data, so every month their payments would go up and down. Current year funding is a push in statute to get districts onto a closer model to the charter model. That said, some elements within the formula are still on prior year data, some elements are going to be on current year data. Different kinds of districts are on slightly different elements. If you need specific help and you want to get all the way down to which elements of the formula are prior or current, you would contact the payments team and they can really get you there. In the short term, you can go read 15905 to get a high overview. But current year funding is not directly linked to AzEDS, it's just something that happened to happen on the same day. When I say data coordinator, I mean a person sitting in an LEA whose job it is to collect and maintain all of the district's data and submit some data to ADE. So a data coordinator, their actual job title might be compliance analyst, it might be business manager, it might be math teacher. That person compiles student records, they'll compile district records, they'll probably have some contact with health records and attendance records. Not all of that data is necessary to submit to ADE. So unfortunately, among the data coordinators, many responsibility is knowing what to submit. Specifically for school finance, we're going to be looking for student demographic data, student membership data, and some program participations just so we can pay you. But a lot of that data you keep to yourself. So you're submitting a lot of things and for a lot of reasons. So the real reason I keep pointing out that we're school finance is I'm not going to know everything about your data, and unfortunately the data coordinator has to be versed in a lot of different things because you're operating many different programs in your school. Maybe you're eligible for certain grants. You'll need to submit something more than just what's necessary for state aid. For example, you might also be giving your students assessments and need to track to make sure that they all have labels on time, and then submitting those actual test booklets or whatever they are. I'm so sorry. So you would need to be in contact with other program areas around the Department of Education, and that'll include the Office of English Language Acquisition, Exceptional Student Services, Grants Management. Among these many others, you'll get there. So AzEDS is our brand new mystery. We went fully live on July 1st, 2016. Prior to July 1st, 2016, we had 1 foot in and 1 foot out. AzEDS is primarily data collection for ADE. There are a lot of things that AzEDS does do. It runs integrity rules on our student data. It collects course data. There are a lot of things that AzEDS doesn't do. So this is a little tongue-in-cheek joke. AzEDS is not going to be a miracle robot to make you lose your job. It's not going to do that for you. The other things that AzEDS doesn't do is AzEDS isn't going to be pulling data away from your system. So in operations or in factories, there are terms push and pull. Push is when you're done with something, you push it to the next step. Pull is when you need something, you pull it from the previous step. AzEDS doesn't pull any data. AzEDS is just, I don't want to say inert, but it's sitting and waiting for schools to push data to AzEDS. So AzEDS isn't pulling data from your system. That's something that people are confused about. There'll be somebody at an LEA whose job it is to configure their student system to push data into AzEDS at whatever interval they chose. Another thing AzEDS doesn't do, AzEDS isn't going to be setting, for example, test labels for assessments. There's a separate system that does that. AzEDS isn't setting cohorts on students. There's a separate system that does that. AzEDS is one of the systems at ADE, and it's primarily student data collection. In prior years, processing student data was on a monthly schedule, and the exciting change for 2017 is it's going to be moving to almost a daily schedule. So I was drawing a map earlier, and essentially these are the scopes of reach for the different elements along the data flow. So data will start all the way, do I have a cursor? Data will start all the way over at an LEA, that stands for Local Education Agency. So that'll be a school district or a charter district. And they will submit data through a student information system. That's something they have purchased. It is a third-party application. I did not write that. Nobody at ADU wrote that. and it'll go through an API, that's an application something interface. So the API is part of AzEDS. So once you cross through that API, you've moved into the realm of ADE. So sitting at ADE, I don't have the ability to see, for example, vaccination records that you have in paper format as at your LEA. I don't have the ability to see what you've typed in your SIS. Sitting at ADE, I do have the ability to see everything on my side of the line, which I've marked green, blue, and purple. Just that's data that's submitted. It's data that's passed integrity. There's a line of scope of what I'm able to see, and hopefully I've given you visibility into what I can see as well. So I've marked these out as places. Places is a very casual way of describing it, but essentially data that goes through the API goes through as a transaction. Each transaction receives a response and are visible at the API level on transaction reports. The data that lands in AzEDS can be verified in verification reports. After integrity runs, there's post-integrity reports, and after ACE runs, there are post-ACE reports. Some of these are on different tables or in different databases. The more you learn about the way the data is flowing from you all the way to ADM, the easier it is to pick which report you need for what you're trying to do at the time. So the API is open essentially 24/7. Like any technical thing, there'll be times where it'll be down for patching or for an upgrade, but usually there'll be a red flag or some kind of a notification that goes out through IT to tell you about when it's going to be down. But generally 24/7, the API is available and waiting for when you push data through it. Integrity is designed to run every weeknight at 5 p.m. Right now, because AzEDS is new, we're running it 6 nights a week, and we're running it a little bit later to make sure everybody's data gets in, but as long as it's in by 5, it'll get there in time for integrity. What's really interesting is ACE is hooked up directly behind integrity like a train, so it goes immediately after integrity every time integrity runs. So when you go to, for example, confirm your data landed or reconcile that each of your students is legitimately generating ADM the way you expect, there'll be various reports you need to pull. If you understand the different places in AzEDS where data can be, you can start understanding what data is showing on your report. So if you can see a student's attendance in a stud 10, how does it look different from the average daily attendance that's calculated in ADM report? It's because 2 or 3 other processes have run on it in the meantime. Maybe some of the attendance events that landed didn't pass integrity. There are a lot of reasons, and understanding where everything comes from helps you understand the reports better. So one of the most difficult functions right now for a lot of the data coordinators in the state are being able to track whether the students that you type into your SIS make it all the way to generate ADM. I would consider that reconciliation, end-to-end reconciliation. You're going to be looking for memberships that are in your SIS and making sure that all of the memberships that you expect to generate ADM are actually generating ADM. So there were a lot of places from one end of the process to the other where memberships could fall off the list. So there could be some that just never landed, there can be some that didn't pass integrity, and then there could be some that legitimately don't generate ADM. For example, a foreign exchange student might not generate ADM the same way a tuition payer type 1 student would.
So now that we understand how the AzEDS process works, now let's go to where do I find these reports? So when you go to the AzEDS portal, within the AzEDS portal, the features within the portal are the system status, the dashboard, and then the reports itself. Once you log into the AzEDS portal, it will immediately bring you to the system status feature. On here, you want to pause for a second and make sure that the integrity status and aggregation status is complete, just so that you make sure that those processes have complete prior to you running reports and diving in and reconciling. You want to make sure that you have complete data on the reports that you're looking at. The verification dashboard is just a quick way for you to determine if ADE has received enrollment count. A lot of our phone calls in the beginning of the year is, did you receive the data that I sent you? So this was a quick and easy way for you to just quickly, a snapshot of you to see the amount for enrollment count, ELL count, and SPED count. Simply you just log in and type in your school name and you can see what ADE has at the current time. Once you click on the AzEDS Reports, it'll bring you to the Student Detail Reports and ADM Reports. These are the reports that we plan on going over to help you reconcile your data. And the reason why we're going over these specific reports is so that you can see what the reason why we're pulling up these reports and why it's important that I would pull up the stud 10 first, then immediately looking at, say, the INTEG or the ADM 15. So I just wanted to bring this slide up once again so that you can identify where in the process these reports are generated and understand the source of each report. So with the trans 10 and the trans 15, that would be a place that I start initially to determine if the data that I've sent from your SIS has landed in ADE. After that, those are the reports that are generated, the stud 10, the stud 15. Those are very similar to the way that for some of the SACE coordinators in the past would use the SD-ADM 72. The integrity is INTEG 15 is generated after integrity processes. That's the same report for the SACE coordinators that are used to the way of SACE, same integrity report, same logic. And then the ACE report is the ADM 15 report is very similar to the SD ADM 75-1 that you may have been used to. Briefly navigating the reports. Once you click on the link to generate a report, a couple items that I would like to point out when you generate a report is the parameter field. When you click on this one example is INTEG 15, one of the things that I found very helpful that the IT team has placed in here is the quick reference guides for each one of the reports. If you click on the eye icon, it will populate the quick reference guide or QRG for each one of the reports. It shows you a detailed description of each one of the reports and explains each one of the parameters for an INTEG 15, a stud 10, because each of them are slightly different, but it's a good resource to have. One of the additional items on here that I wanted to point out was the collapse the parameter pane, which looks like a dash mark to me or a subtraction, my tongue got away with me, symbol. If you simply click on that, because the parameter field takes up half of your screen, if you click on that, it will collapse the parameter pane so that you have more room to view your report. Integrity errors. So there are different types of integrity errors. From the API, the transaction errors and verification level errors at the API of AzEDS are found on the trans 15 and trans 10 report. The trans 10 is a summary report of the errors that you may have received from AzEDS, from the information that your vendor has sent to AzEDS. The trans 15 will give you a detailed description of what specifically failed within a 3-day window. In the report, they are indicated with a 3-digit number that either starts with a 4 or a 5. Pulling up the trans 15, if you pull up the QRG or the quick reference guide that I just mentioned, it gives you more detail as to what specifically you should be looking at and a key to what those 400 or 500 error codes mean. The integrity errors are found on the INTEG 15. Those are very similar to the integrity report that you would find in previous SACE reports. They are indicated, the difference with these is that they're indicated with a 5-digit number. For ADM, they're listed in the 10,000. Specifically for ADM, as it impacts your state aid, integrity errors that do impact that start with the 10,000. If you do not understand the integrity errors that are on the INTEG 15, please contact your account analyst so that we can help you determine if it's something that we can help you walk through or if it's something that you need to reach your vendor. So this just reiterates the way that the integrity errors are defined. For STC rules, they are the 60,000 errors. The question that we have a lot of the time is, how do I prioritize these integrity errors? From a school finance perspective and probably from a business perspective, obviously I'm going to tell you that you first want to make sure that you are resolving the integrity errors that impact your state aid or ADM. STC rules and some SPED rules don't impact ADM eligibility. So from a school finance and business standpoint, I would say to make sure to prioritize the intake errors that do affect ADM.
This is Saba again. The ADM 15 is kind of a new way to look at ADM. It's the first report that we've got out of ACE. ACE is our ADM calculation engine. And our very first report, it's not very elegant. It doesn't have a PDF version yet as of October 2016. Because right now it is a very wide spreadsheet. And as you walk from one column to the next, you can kind of get an image of how ACE is calculating ADM. So we wanted to go over three pretty crucial columns that might help you estimate what your district-wide ADM is. So the first column, the one that seems most reasonable, is called limited ADM for a 40th day row. So on an ADM report, when ACE starts to calculate ADM, it'll take a 100-day membership and split it into 2 rows. There'll be a 40th day reporting period row and a 100th day reporting period row. The 40th day row will represent days 1 through 40. The 100th day row will represent days 41 to 100. The limited ADM column for the 40th day row will be 40 divided by 40 after the membership days are limited, and for the 100th day row will be 41 to 100 divided by 60. That's why this value, that one column, cannot be summed across all of the reporting periods to calculate a district-wide ADM, because it's essentially an average limited ADM for that period. The next column, which is brand new for AzEDS, it's called limited year-end ADM. Year-end ADM attempts to cross that divide between 60 days divided by 60 and 100 days divided by 100 by taking each row and divided by 100. So if you're looking at a student who is there for 100 membership days, they'll have one row where their limited year-end ADM is 0.4, and another row where their limited year-end ADM is 0.6. So if you are looking for a quick way to get ADM for your entire LEA, you would filter to non-SPED, non-ELL ADM, and then you would filter for fundable students, and then you can sum limited year-end ADM to get a picture of your entire district. So this is just a helpful column. This isn't the column that goes for payment though. So the last column is limited membership days. And so, for example, if you have a student who's participating in 2 schools at the same time, one of those schools is yours, that student could have 100 membership days with you, and so that'll be broken into a 40 column and a 60 column. That would be limited to, for example, 20 days and 30 days because she's participating in 2 programs simultaneously. So you would be limited to only half ADM. So if you take limited membership days and sum it for the entire district after filtering out non-regular ADM and non-fundable ADM, you should get exactly the value that the payment systems are going to use. So the payment systems are going to take 100 days or 100 limited days divided by 100. So those are how to navigate the ADM 15. It's a little bit tricky, but 3 really valuable columns. We will be recording more videos as we go forward. We're having regular webinars and workshops. If you follow our website, look for hot topics and other announcements there. You should be able to catch up with whatever you don't have. If you would like to know more things, you can always email your account analyst or call our main line. We would love to help you navigate student data best we can.